Hi, everyone. My name is Cody Fullerton, and I'm the Data and Education Liaison Librarian at the University of Manitoba. And I was asked to give a little presentation on finding data with our researcher workshop series. And so that's what I did. I've been the data librarian at the University of Manitoba for 6 months now, so it hasn't been too long. I've worked at the U of M for 5 years, but I took on this role in November. And this is my first presentation to faculty and staff. I've done a number of data presentations for students, for undergrads and grad students, but this is the first for faculty and staff, so this should be fun. So this presentation is going to be kind of an introduction to finding mostly StatCan data. And it's going to be aggregate data, and it's going to be microdata and all kinds of stuff. And I'll explain that as we go, because the number one thing I get asked by students, faculty, and staff, and other people is I'm looking for a specific type of data or a data set, or does this data set exist somewhere? And I usually just help them find it. And for the most part, unless it's some kind of international data, I can find it on StatCan through either their website or one of our tools that we subscribe to. So I'm just going to get started here. So this is an introduction to Statistics Canada data and where to find it. And just so you know, at the end, I'll share my my slides. It'll just be a link to the slides because this is on slides.com and I've made it public. So the link will get you right to the slides. And the reason my name on the first slide here is blue is because that's a link to the subject guide that I've created for data hosted by the U of M. So that's why that's blue. So that's a link right to my subject guide from there, which has a lot of good information on finding data and the different types of data and that kind of stuff. Okay, so I'm going to move on. So in today's class, we're going to start off with a little terminology, specifically geography terminology, because StatCan and a lot of other government agencies that deal with data have specific terminology that they use that's really good to know just in a broad sense, specifically having to do with geography and what area you're looking at, because how they label things, it's not intuitive as to what they are. Then we're going to go over the StatCan Data Portal on their website. I'm going to show you how to find data tables. So this is going to be aggregated data. So it's already been analyzed. I'm going to show you how to find data tables, find what you're looking for, and also change them and manipulate them how you want for it to display the data. And then I'm going to go over Odyssey, which is another data portal that we have that has some different functionality, and that's going to be mostly for finding microdata files. And microdata files are every person's individual answer. It's not analyzed, it's not aggregated, it's just the answers to surveys and the census and all that kind of stuff. And the Nesstar portal kind of works as an extension of Odyssey, a place where you can actually download these microdata files. And then at the end, I'm just going to give you a little bit of information on citing data, because there's no real universal way to cite data, and it can be tricky. StatCan and some of these other portals do give you kind of an idea of how to do it, but based on the citation style that you're using, if you're writing a paper or something like that, it could be a lot different. Okay, so let's move right into the geography terminology. And I'm just going to keep checking back that there's no chats or questions. Okay, good. Good. Okay. So, geography terminology. This is you don't have to memorize this. There won't be a test at the end unless there is. So this is kind of StatCan has this on their website. They start with Canada as a geographic area, and you can either move by province and territory in different directions, or you can move by statistical area classifications. And we're going to be dealing with 2 statistical area classifications and only 1 province or territory classification. And those will be on the next slides. So this is kind of just a really nice breakdown of how StatCan organizes their data geographically. And you can even look at the same data across different levels of analysis. Okay, so the first one of the major ones, you might have heard this before, is Census Metropolitan Area, or CMA, as it's referred to, and Census Agglomeration, or CA. They're basically the same thing, except a Census Metropolitan Area has to be bigger. So a CMA is an area consisting of one or more neighboring municipalities situated around a core, in Canada, always a city. A Census Metropolitan Area must have a total population of at least 100,000, of which 50,000 or more live in the core, so in the city itself. So think of this as like Greater Winnipeg. So it has Winnipeg, but it has some surrounding areas as well. Greater Edmonton, Greater Calgary, all those kind of places. And I'll show you how to find maps so you can see exactly what's included in a CMA or a CA. A CA must have a core of at least 10,000. So there's more CAs than there are CMAs in Canada, because we don't have that many places where there's a population of 100,000 in a fairly small area. Okay, I think there's about 25 CMAs if I'm correct in Canada, so not that many. So the next thing I want to talk about is a census tract. So you have your CMA, right? Your census metropolitan area or your census agglomeration. And census tracts are smaller, relatively stable geographic areas that usually have a population between 2,500 and 8,000, and they're always located within a CMA or a CA. But it has to have a core population of at least 50,000 in the previous census, so in 2016. And census tracts can be a really, really good way of looking at data, because if you're looking at a CMA for, like, say, Winnipeg, the Winnipeg Census Metropolitan Area, it's pretty big. It actually extends up one point to Lake Winnipeg. But say you only want to look at a certain neighborhood or a certain set of neighborhoods, you can use census tracts to do that, and it'll only show you the data from those tracts, which is really nice. It'll become more clear as when I show it to you. And the Census Subdivision is another one. This is the provincial and territorial route instead of the statistical area route. So this is an area, municipality or area, that is deemed to be equivalent to a municipality for statistical reporting purposes. For example, Indigenous reservations, or what they call unorganized territories, can be a census subdivision. A municipal status is defined by laws in effect in each province and territory. Just like in Manitoba, we have municipalities. In Ontario, they have counties, and the way that they classify them and what they are is kind of different between province to province. This is also very different from an electoral division. So and you can look at electoral divisions too, which is kind of nice. So those were the terminologies that I wanted to go over, just so everyone's aware. Census metropolitan area and census agglomeration with census tracts in them to kind of break them up, and then the census subdivision. You can break up subdivisions, but it's not as easy. Okay, so now I wanted to just jump right in to the StatCan Data Portal. So this is just the StatCan website, statscan.gc.ca. They redid it about a year and a half ago. I think finally 100% redid the website. It's so much better now. It's way easier to use. It's actually an extremely useful tool if you want to find aggregated data. And usually in data tables, there are also some data visualizations, which are kind of nice, and a few other things that I'll show you. And we're going to be looking at two sections of the StatsCan website, which is the geography section and then the data section. They're linked, but yeah, it's just different ways of accessing data. Okay, so I'm just going to open StatCan. There we go. StatCan.gc.ca. We're in English. So this is the homepage of the StatsCan website. I'm just going to check that this is actually showing. Nice. Okay. I'm scared that it's not showing. Okay, there we go. Okay, so up at the top here, we have the different sections. So here's the data section, but we're going to look at geography first. So if you click on the geography section, it loads a nice big map of Canada. And then below it, it also has data tables and analysis and references for a bunch of different things, a bunch of different products that have been published. You can search by keyword, you can search by subject, you can search by type of data, and you can actually search by the name of the survey or the census itself, just by clicking the little check boxes. You can also do that on data page, which is where I'm going to show you how to do that. But for now, we're going to concentrate on geography. So before you type anything into the box here, you can type in the name of a city, a town. You can put a postal code in there. You can actually put a series of numbers that is designated as a census tract. You can do all kinds of stuff in there. But before you punch anything in, you're going to want to check out your settings, your options and preferences over here. So in my search, I only have census metropolitan area selected. This one doesn't matter as much, the search function, because if you type in a postal code, it'll still search for postal code. If you type in a census tract number, it'll search for that. If you type in a census subdivision, it'll search for that. Where you really want to make sure you have it down is your related geography. And the defaults take away some of these, but I've added a bunch of them. Regions, census subdivisions, CMAs and CAs, census divisions, federal electoral districts, designated places, all kinds of different things. And I've also included census tracts in here so I can show you what they look like. So we're just going to press OK. And I'm going to type in a postal code. Let's see if I remember what it is. R3C OA1. Anyone from Winnipeg will know where this postal code is once it comes up on the map. So all you have to do, it's right here, is it gives you a list of choices. You just have to click on it. The map zooms in and it shows you that's this postal code. So I'm just going to zoom out a little bit. So can anyone, does anyone know where this is? I don't know if you can punch it into the chat. Just from the map, can anyone tell me where this is in Winnipeg? This is the Red River. This is the Assiniboine River right here. What's this area? Someone said the Forks. 10 points to Aaron. Yes, it is the Forks. So the Museum for Human Rights is over here, and the Forks is over here. So that's what this postal code is. It's the Forks, and I thought it'd be a nice one to share. So over here, you can see on the side, our region is the prairies, which is actually Manitoba, Saskatchewan, and Alberta. Our dissemination area, that's, you don't really have to worry about that one, but the census division is division number 11, which is just Winnipeg. That's where it splits the province into different divisions. Our CMA is Winnipeg. Our census subdivision is also Winnipeg, but it's slightly different than the metropolitan area or the census division. They're all slightly different. Our census tract is 0013.00, which I'll show you how to use in a minute. Economic region is Winnipeg. So there's all these different things. You can even look up the Winnipeg Regional Health Authority. So if you click on any of these things, it'll change the map and it will only give you data at the bottom here about that specific area that you've chosen. So for this census, or for this dissemination area or postal code, they call them dissemination areas in StatCan, there's only 3 data tables or data file. Yeah, there's only 3 things that it shows. It's a census profile for that area, population and dwelling counts, and then the census profile from 2011. So 2016 is the newest one, of course. But if we go ahead and change this, I'm going to click on the census tract instead of just the dissemination area. As you can see, it adds to the map. So I can tell you the reason why the tract is bigger than the dissemination area, and sometimes tracts are smaller than dissemination areas. Well, not very often, but sometimes. It's because, as you remember, census tracts have to have at least about 2,500 people, 2,500 to 8,000 people in a census tract, and no one really lives at the forks, right? So they have to include a bunch of a lot more area in order to get that population up. Okay. So let's click on some other ones. So let's look at the Winnipeg Census Metropolitan Area, the CMA. As you'll be able to see, it includes a lot more than just Winnipeg. So this is what StatCan would refer to as Greater Winnipeg, I guess, or just the CMA. So you can see it stretches all the way up to Lake Winnipeg here, and it goes down and east and west. It kind of goes all over the place. And as you can see, where is it here? Oh yeah, that's fine. Because we're still searching for just the postal code, but we're clicking on other things. So if we go Census Subdivision for Winnipeg, you can see that's more just Winnipeg itself. And again, every time you click on something different, it's going to change the data that's provided at the bottom. So now there's 76 different data tables just about the Winnipeg Census Subdivision, or that has information about the Winnipeg Census Subdivision. And it can be all kinds of stuff. You can limit what it is over here on the subjects and the type of data and the survey itself. So most of them are going to be about the census, which makes sense because a census subdivision is about the census. It's only used by the census, I would say. So let's go back to the census tract. Oops, there we go. Right there. Okay. And again, it's only 17 data tables now. So all of these data tables that are listed here are about the census, this particular census tract. And census tracts, as you can see, they're denoted with numbers. They don't have names, which can make them a little bit tricky to find. There is a way to find them. If you Google StatCan census tracts list, you can get a big list of all the census tracts. You pick the CMA that you're looking at, or the CA, and it gives you a big list, and it gives you a map, and you can see which census tract you want to find information on, or grouping of census tracts. One thing that I've found these really helpful for is I'm also not only the data librarian, but I'm also the liaison for the Faculty of Education for the University of Manitoba Libraries. And they want information on school divisions a lot. All kinds of data on school divisions. StatCan does not separate their data by school division. But if you look up a map of school divisions on the school division's website, you can map tracts to the school division because they follow geographic regions, just like school divisions do, like rivers and roads and that kind of thing. So that's the best way I found to find data on school divisions. If it's a rural school division, it sometimes can be a lot easier because even though there aren't tracts, there are subdivisions and divisions and all that kind of stuff. So we'd have to do more of a province territory kind of a look at it as compared to a statistical area like we can for Winnipeg or any city in Canada. Okay, so this is basically how to use the geography section. It can be really easy too, like I'm just gonna type in one more, Winnipeg. So I'm gonna look up the Winnipeg CMA right here. It gives me the Winnipeg CMA, and now you can see aggregate dissemination areas. There's 93 of them. It's only showing 3 here, but you can click on that and it gives you all 93. And you can click on the one you want. Again, you'll have to know the number, unless it's a rural municipality like Springfield or St. Clements, West St. Paul, Broken Head. All of these are included in the Winnipeg CMA. Headingley, of course. And you can also look at all of the different census tracts. So there's 174 different census tracts in the Winnipeg CMA. Again, you're going to have to know the number that you're looking for, but you can find that relatively easily with the Census Tract map that you could find easily by Googling Census Tracts StatCan. So yeah, so let's just click on one randomly and see where it is in Winnipeg. 510.02. So this looks like it's over in Charleswood. Yep, there's Grant Avenue. So it goes from Wilkes to Corydon. Yeah, so clicking on them randomly can be fun sometimes. There you go. And again, it's only giving us data on that census tract below it. Okay, so I think we could probably move on now. I should ask, does anyone have any questions about using the geography tab and looking things up by where it is? If you don't, we can always take them at the end, or you can email me privately. It doesn't really matter. Okay. I'm just going to move on then for the sake of time. Okay. So the next area that we're going to be looking at, one other thing I should mention about the geography section, if you click on too many things, it'll sometimes freeze the page and you have to reload the page. So just be aware of that. So we're going to go to the data section now of StatsCan. As you can see right at the top, COVID-19 from a data perspective. I assume we're all familiar with COVID-19 by this point. And so yeah, right at the top there, you can look at data that they have on COVID-19. They have a lot of different data tables. It's mostly confirmed cases and that kind of thing. But if you click on the data tab, you'll see that there's 9,455 different data tables that you can access. There's 91 different data visualizations. There's 126 public use microdata files, which is what we're going to get to next. There's maps, profiles of communities or regions, all that kind of stuff. And again, you can filter by subject, by geography. If you're going to filter by geography, I would suggest using the geography tab instead, unless you're just using province or territory, because it can limit, in this, on the data tab, it can kind of limit what you're seeing if you limit by geography, just so you know. And then you can actually look up specific surveys and the census as well. So there's a lot of them. A lot of them are discontinued. A lot of the surveys, they don't run them anymore. In the 90s and in the 80s and early 2000s, StatsCan ran a lot of surveys, but they don't do as many anymore because of budgetary restrictions. Okay, so for this one, what I like to do is either search. You can search by the title of the survey, census profile, like I have in here, income spending, annual household income, child care, health, all these kind of things. You can search by variable that you want to look for, all that kind of stuff. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to type in child care and click search. So according to StatsCan, there's 196 different data tables that they have according for child care, right? And you can just kind of go through them. It's really important to look at the title, because usually it tells you like what it is and kind of what it's about. Household population age 0 to 5 years, so that's what it's about. The geography is Canada, and you can break it up by province or territory. The description gives you a little description of what it's about, and also the release date is important. So this is July 30th, 2019. That's when this was published. And that's the newest thing. It always automatically sorts by, it says relevance, but it's also by date. Date comes into it's a big factor in how it sorts things. And you can change how it sorts things up here, of course. So yeah, that's just using the search bar. So, and you can always see your filters right here, and filter by results. So the filters that I've applied is just the childcare keyword. I'm actually going to take that off for now. And I'm going to go to health, just as an example, to search by subject. So there's 908 data tables related to health. And as you can see, the number one that pops up right at the top, published the 22nd of May, 2020, so that was just a few days ago, the Canadian Economic Dashboard and COVID-19. So this is a data visualization. As you can see here, it's not a data table. If it was a data table, it would say table right there. So I'm going to click on it, just as an example of what a visualization looks like. So these are graphs, I believe, yes. And you can change the indicator on the side here. So this is gross domestic product, consumer price index, employment. This is a little, you know, it's not a very nice graph to look at. Retail trade sales. As you can probably imagine, a lot of things have gone down. Hours worked. Now you can see starting in March, April, it's a little bit better for hours worked than March across all of Canada. So that's nice to see. But yeah, so this is what a visualization would look like. Yeah, it gives you notes, weekly updates, definitions, and all that stuff at the bottom. So that's an example of a visualization. And the next thing is preliminary information on cases of COVID-19. Okay, so this is what I wanted to show you, and this is the data table where I'm going to show you how you can add and remove data and change the table based on what you want, how you want it to look. So this is just statistics, total number of cases by transmission, total by hospitalization, total by intensive care unit admittance, and total by death, right? So they always have the total, yes, no, not stated. So again, this kind of table is right here, it's preliminary. It's not 100%. You can't rely on it fully, but it is the numbers that they have at the time of publication. Again, this was just published just a few days ago. So as you can see, it's just the totals and each thing with the counts on the side here. But I want it to look a little bit different. I want to see the breakup between, if you can, the breakup between male and female patients. So if you go above the data table to this add remove data right here, and you click on that, you can change how the table looks based on what you want. So for geography, it always has a geography tab because it's where this data is coming from. We can't change it, it's only Canada. If there was a little plus sign right here, then we'd be able to change it, but only Canada. So if we go to gender, there is a plus sign this time. Click on the plus sign. I'm going to click off total and select male and female. And then go to age group. And I want to break it up by age group too. So let's go all age groups except not stated. And then stats. I want transmission, hospitalization, intensive care, and death stats. Yep, okay. So if we hit apply, you're going to see this table change dramatically. So this is the same table, the same information, just broken up into different sections. So we have 2020, all of Canada. So that's your geography. You got male and female. You have male with all the different age sections. You have female with a different age. And then your counts. It doesn't look like we could sort it by percentage. So usually you can do counts or numbers and percentages, but not for this one. So male and female, for males age 50 to 59 years who have community exposure is 1,434 according to this data, right? So this isn't just giving you the totals for everybody. This is breaking it down and giving you a lot more information based on these factors up here, age and sex. So, and as you can see, the higher the age, the deceased tends to rise as the age rises. which of course, I'm sure everyone is aware that, you know, old age doesn't help with this. Okay. So that's pretty much searching the data section of the StatCan website. And again, it's just right here under data. Oh yeah, download data. Yes, you can. Okay, so I'm gonna go back. Thanks for the question. You can download data from here. You can download the data tables, and you can download them how you want as well. So I'm just gonna go back to our table here. I'm gonna sort it by male and female again. I'm gonna sort it by age and everything. So I'm gonna apply. So I'm gonna get the same table as we had before, same table. And you can see right here at the top, it says download options. So you can, it's mostly CSV, but so you can see it says download as displayed. So exactly how it looks there is how it's going to download as a CSV file. So however you change the table, you can download it just like it looks on your screen. And this excludes accompanying symbols. A lot of times that doesn't really change much of anything, except sometimes it can leave out the notes. Download select data for database loading. It's the ones that I've used the most are the top two. And then you can download the entire table as it stands, which is a little bit different because this information was pulled from a bigger table, which I can also show you if you want. So these are your download options. It's mostly CSV. And you click it, it just downloads right to your, probably your downloads folder or whatever, and you can go from there. Okay. And just so you know, with every data table at the bottom, there's a how to cite. So this is the link that you should be using to cite it. And you can always go and look at the source, which is the epidemiological reports. And there's also related products, which there's a lot for this one because they're pumping out a lot of information on COVID-19. And if you go down to the bottom, you can see this is to May 4th, 5th, 6th, 9th. They publish them every once in a while. It always starts January 15th because that was Canada's first case, I believe. So if you don't know the last one, you click on it, it'll bring up information, and also you can look at the tables. And I believe this will take us back. Yeah, it's basically going to take us back to the table that we were looking at before. But this is the overarching table where it's pulling all of that information from. So, and again, you can change it to add and remove things and include whatever you want. So, okay. So now, go back to our little presentation here. So that was StatCan, the geography and the data section. So now we're going to move on. Before we move on, that's right. If you're looking for local data, I get a lot of questions about Winnipeg data specifically. So the Winnipeg has an open data portal for the city of Winnipeg. The city of Winnipeg also has a slightly different data site, which can be found right off of their homepage. The Winnipeg Consortium Community Data Program is another great resource for data. mypeg.ca kind of measures what they would call the health of Winnipeg by a bunch of different measurements and factors. And then the street census is actually a really interesting one because, as you're probably aware, the census only goes to people, census and surveys only go to people who have addresses, right? Who live in a dwelling or a residence. So the street census was started by a bunch of different community groups in Winnipeg. And they've done two, 2016 and 2018. And they survey, it's basically a census for the homeless population of Winnipeg. It's very interesting, and a lot of people that I've told about this are really interested in it, especially education and social work and a few other disciplines at U of M. So just so you know, those are all available as well. And if you Google any of these, it'll pop right up. One kind of cool thing I love about the Open Data Portal, just to go off on a little bit of a tangent, is there's a data visualization of every tree planted in Winnipeg, when it was planted. You can look where it is, if it has some kind of disease or whatever, and it's really interesting. And sometimes it'll even bring up a picture of the tree. So that's a really interesting visualization that I just like myself, because I live in a neighborhood that has a lot of trees. And I've looked up all of the trees on my block. Okay, so the next thing we're going to talk about is the Odyssey platform and Nesstar. So Odyssey is the Ontario Data Documentation, Extraction Service, and Infrastructure. It's a digital repository for social science data, including polling data, which makes it different from StatCan. And it also includes a bunch of other things as well, which I'll show you. It's a web-based data exploration, extraction, and analysis tool. It provides researchers the ability to search for variables across thousands of data sets. And you can find both microdata and aggregate data in Odyssey, but for the most part, a lot of it is microdata, especially when it comes to the Statistics Canada data that it has. And then Nesstar kind of works in parallel with Odyssey. Odyssey, you can search and you can do some analysis in the program itself, but Nesstar is where you would download public use microdata files, or PUMFs, that come from StatCan. And also you can request access to master files. Master files are microdata files, but public use microdata files, or PUMFs, have been anonymized so that you can't identify a single person or a group of people from the data itself, because a microdata file is every respondent's individual answers to every single question asked on a survey or the census. The master file isn't anonymized, so you could tell if someone, this is a great example that I always like to use, is if you're looking at a specific town or a city, how many people in that city have the occupation of mayor, right? It's only one. So if you see that that's that person's occupation, you know who that person is, and you can see all of their answers. So that's what they in a public use microdata file where they anonymize that information, they either take out that information, so they'll remove that person's occupation, or they'll change it, or they'll do something with it that anonymizes it. It does kind of screw up the data a little bit, but so few questions have to be, or so few responses have to be anonymized that it's usually fine, right? And StatCan does kind of a like a benefit analysis of, if we change this, is it going to significantly alter the data? And sometimes they haven't. They've been working on public use microdata files, and they've found that they have to anonymize so much of it that they can't even publish it. So they have to just stop working on it, because the data would be so screwed up, and they can't publish it because it's not anonymized and people would be able to be picked out from it. And that's why census tracts actually are as big as they are. They have to include a certain population, because you can look at microdata answers from a specific census tract, and there's a lot less people there than a whole city. So you could probably pick out somebody if you knew the people who lived in that tract, especially things like a small town or whatever. So, all right. So now I'm going to show you Odyssey and Nesstar. So what I'm going to do, no, I don't want that. I'm going to access Odyssey. I probably should have brought it up off of the University of Manitoba Library's homepage. I'm just going to go to the databases A to Z. It's in our big database list, and I'm going to search for Odyssey. It's the first one that comes up. All right, so this is what Odyssey looks like. It actually looks very, I think it looks kind of fancy myself. It's very easy to use. And you can see below the search bars here, You can search all of Odyssey, which includes all of this stuff. The StatCan microdata, the StatCan aggregate data, public opinion polls, and other data, which there's a little bit of explanation for, but not much. So this is what it searches off, right off the bat. You can click or unclick whichever ones you want. And you can also include these ones on the side here. So these are the master files, the ones that aren't anonymized, the PUMFs that aren't anonymized. But if you see them, it'll only give you the record. You have to request access, and they can deny you access to them. Of course, you have to argue to get it. And then the Canadian Opinion Research Archive, the Inter-University Consortium for Political and Social Research, more well known by ICPSR, which is not just a Canadian thing, but that's a worldwide data consortium. And then Canadian Dataverses. And we actually have an instance of Dataverse at the University of Manitoba where researchers can store their data securely while they're doing research and share it and all that kind of stuff. So you can also search Dataverses in here. And this is maintained by the Ontario Council for University Libraries. And we are a member. So, as you can see, I've searched things in here before. I'm just going to leave it to the 4 that come automatically. And I'm going to search for, just as an example, if you know the name of the survey that you're searching for, you can just search it either by the name or by the abbreviation. CCHS is the Canadian Health Survey, Canadian Consumer Health Survey. I got it. So if you search for it, here's the results. Now, if you see something that has the word synthetic before the name of the survey, that, as you can see right below here, synthetic data file, also known as a dummy file, is not real data. It's only used to kind of calibrate computer programs and whatnot, just as an example of what that data is going to look like. And it's a much smaller file typically. So if you're getting a program ready to run something, you can use one of these because it'll look to the program, it'll look the same. But the newest Canadian Community Health Survey is 2015 to 16. That's the newest one that's been published. 17-18 was supposed to be published, I think, a month ago, but the whole COVID thing has knocked it back, and I don't know when it's going to be published. So you can click on the survey that you're looking for itself, and it'll just bring it up. Slowly, there we go. It gives you a lot of information, the abstract of what the CCHS is. This is the annual component. They also do other components that measure, say, mental health or something like that. So you can look for those as well in the last page. The description of the study, right? The geographic unit is health regions. It's not CMAs, it's not census subdivisions, it's health regions. So that's always good to know. You got your documentation. One thing in the documentation that's always extremely important is the data dictionary. Whenever you're looking at a survey or the census or anything like that, any type of data, there should always be a data dictionary attached, because sometimes they just use abbreviations for variables, or oftentimes they do, and you can look up what they actually mean in the data dictionary. So that's with any kind of data that you're looking at, and you're not really sure what it's about, or you can't understand it, just go to the data dictionary. There should always be one included. And when you download this data, it's included in the download. So you can also look at the survey variables. I don't want to do that right now, but what we want to do is download this data. So the Explore and Download button is right there. We click on that. As you can see up at the top here, it's taking us to the Nesstar web view. And it does say Odyssey right here, but this is basically Nesstar. And this is where anyone can download the public use microdata file right from here. So the metadata, study description, data files and description, other documentation. So that's where you're going to find your data dictionary and all that kind of stuff. And then the variable description is here. So these are all the different variables that were attached and asked in this survey. And then if you click on it, it's all the different answers that are possible for each question. Right, so there's a lot in this survey. It's a really big survey that's run every year or every year and a half. So you can do a little bit of this. Is also like a description of the survey. You can also do a little bit of tabulation and analysis in this program. It's not that robust. If you're just looking for one thing, it can be kind of useful, but I haven't used it all that much, and I would rather download the data and analyze it in a program that I'm familiar with. So when you want to actually download the data, there's all these little tiny little bars up here, refresh and looking at subsets and weights and all that kind of stuff. With the little floppy disk that I'm sure we all remember, the floppy disk, or what's known as to the kids these days as just the save button or the download button. You click on that. This is one great thing about Nesstar and Odyssey, is that there's a lot of different data types that you can download. So it's SPSS files, stata files, text files, delimited SAS. So if you're using SAS as a comma separated values. So there's all kinds of different ways that you can download this data. So for example, if we download it as a SPSS file and download the documentation as well, you always want to download the documentation too. So PDF or XML format, I would just go with PDF. You hit download, and it's going to download the full data set in whatever file format that you've chosen. And then you can start analyzing it in your software of choice. Let's see. I'm just checking how much time we have left. Okay, 8 minutes. Okay, so that's basically how to use Odyssey and Nesstar to find public use microdata files, or PUMFs. So if you can type your questions into the question bar if you want, but I'm just going to quickly move on and go to this little page on citing data. As I said before, there's really no formalized method to it. And it can be challenging for sure, specifically depending if you're using a certain citation style. And they're not, they can be really vague in the citation styles about how to cite data. The newer ones that are coming out are they're a lot better with citing data because it's becoming a lot more prevalent. But I've also have a link in there to refer to the guide that I created on the subject guide, the U of M subject guide. That's also linked on the first slide under my name. Always make sure you cite data. It's just as important as citing an article or a book that you're citing when writing a paper. And yeah, that's really how you should think about it, no matter where you get it. If you get it from StatCan, if you get it from Nesstar, Odyssey, if you get it from a Dataverse, wherever you get it from. Okay, and that's it. So if there are any questions, feel free to ask them here. My information is right here, my email, and the subject guide that I've created for this is available. Just to find more information on data and how to find it, it's available at this guide here. And that's been the presentation. I hope everyone is a little bit more familiar with findings, StatCan data, aggregate data on their website, and public use microdata files on Odyssey and Nesstar. All right, thank you all for coming. Bye.